Now, we're going to be talking about equality now. I'm joined by the convener of the Equal Opportunities Committee, Claudia Beamish. Thank you for joining me.
That's a pleasure.
Now, you're quite new to this role, aren't you?
Yeah, it's been very exciting and quite daunting as well, because as many of your listeners will know, there are 9 protected characteristics, of which one is disability, and a lot of those characteristics are cross-cutting issues that people need support and protection about. And I'm getting up to speed, and it's very good to be meeting with groups, and I'm delighted to be able to highlight the issues that we are focusing on at the moment and to encourage people to get in touch with us today.
Now, Insight Radio website is linked up with the Scottish Government website today, so if you're at home and you want to find out where we are, what we're doing, just follow the links on the website. When you talk about equalities, are you talking about with regard to employment law, laws in general with people, or what exactly are you focused on?
Right, well, of course we have concerns about employment in relation to all groups who are either minority groups or groups who might be disadvantaged or discriminated against as individuals in the end. Employment law itself, as listeners will probably know, is a reserved issue, but in that we can address issues in the Scottish Parliament to that extent. We're determined to look at any issues that might be raised by your listeners and by others who are either blind or partially sighted. And I know that, I believe, is the figure about 66% of blind, partially sighted people who are not in work. And it seems quite clear to me from the conversations I've started to have with people that that's not because a lot of them don't wish to work, but because of barriers to work. And that's something that we would like to hear about from listeners very much.
I mean, I think what feeds back to me presenting the morning mix, and we get calls and we get emails, is the frustration I know of people who have tried time after time to get work. Mm-hmm. And they are qualified for what they're going for, they're very personable, and yet they still, one of them had to go through so many stages, and it was for a catalogue, I think, to do on the phone. This chap has a fantastic speaking voice, and yet even after 8 hours, still was unsuccessful for that job, and it's frustrating for blind and partially sighted people.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's right, and what I'm very keen to do as a new convener is to really look at what those barriers might be, and personally I believe in positive action, and that's something that I'm speaking now as an MSP and in my capacity as Claudia. And I would like to see our committee addressing issues in that way, and for instance in terms of where jobs are advertised, and also the format in which they're advertised, and beyond that, looking at the actual application process and interview processes and support through to the workplace. And I think those are issues that we've actually been looking at in relation to race within our budgetary process, and I'm sure that's something that we could be addressing in the future if that's something that blind and partially sighted people want us to look at.
And there's been a report done recently at the University of Glasgow which was talking about the way that disabled people are perceived in media now, and this was purely in print media, mm-hmm. and how there's been a change in the last 10 years of more negative reporting of benefits, cheats and things like that, instead of the more positive stories. How do we change this whole opinion? Because we're living in hard times, so people mm-hmm. tend to become more negative.
Mm. The Equality and Human Rights Commission has done a report recently about victimisation of disabled people, and that's something that we need to be looking at as a parliament, and which I will be highlighting to Scottish Government. And I suppose I am aware of more media negativity, but I think that there are many good news stories as well that need highlighting, and Insight Radio is something that is a tool for doing that, and it's also about individual stories that we need to hear about, and which in the Equal Opportunities Committee we can can then gain more understanding through. And one of the things we do in the committee is we have a meet and greet session, and it's a new thing that we're doing, and they're highly oversubscribed, and so we're doing more and more of them. And I would really encourage groups and individuals who want to come and meet us as a committee in an informal way to come and then we can listen. I know that there's a young blind and partially sighted people's group, is that called Haggai?
Yeah.
And we'd be delighted to offer them an invitation, and other groups that would like to come forward, and that can just be done through the website. The clerk for Equal Opportunities, Douglas Thornton, actually does have Braille on his card, and that's something that I was thinking, when I get my new set of cards, now that I've got a regional office, I'll certainly be putting that onto it. But we would really welcome people coming and coming to meet us. That would be great.
You sound as if your awareness is becoming raised the further longer you're in the job. Do you think that's an issue in the wider public, that's what we need to do as well?
Yes, I think so. I think even before we get to the public, I think it's an issue within the Parliament. And as listeners might know, there is now a blind MSP who we have, who is on the Equal Opportunities Committee, who, if you haven't yet heard from today, I'm sure you will be doing.
We're speaking to him a little later.
Great, that's Dennis Robertson,
yeah.
And certainly in relation to the Parliament, I feel a responsibility as convener of Equal Opportunities to ensure that there is appropriate access for everybody. And that's partly about where people are coming from geographically, or what sort of lives people lead and making them feel welcome. But it's also about specific groups and making them feel welcome. And that's a dialogue that I'm very keen to have. But beyond in the wider public, I'm sure that is also an area that we need to address, and we are determined, rather than hoping to do more in the media about from the perspective of equal opportunities, along with the Scottish Government's and the Parliament's media offices. So that now that I've been invited here today, I hope that I'll learn more, and I'd like to listen to more of the interviews today, and I need to know the wave band so I can follow you a bit better. But I'm sure that we do need to highlight issues more, yeah. Yeah,
and it's perception, isn't it, that we talk about the benefit cuts, so it's like talking about disabled people as take, and yet the disabled movement, the disabled group of people, demographic, have a lot to give and can contribute to the world of employment, to all sorts of things. It's just getting that awareness so that we can be perceived that way.
I mean, there are such enormous contributions that people can make, and their specific disability shouldn't in any way sort of prevent them from offering what they've got to offer. I think that sort of awareness is very important. I mean, I would like to just highlight the concerns that I've got in relation to the welfare reform bill, and you're talking about the perception of the public of disabled people and benefits and all that, and there are very serious concerns about the new legislation that is coming before the UK Parliament, and that's something that in Equal Opportunities we'll be looking at really carefully in relation to blind and partially sighted people, because I know that the new is it the employment allowance it's called, that's going to come instead of incapacity benefit.
Instead of the DLA?
Instead of the DLA, yeah. There's obviously concerns about that in terms of the barriers to work that we were talking about earlier for blind and partially sighted people. So this is very much a watching brief for us.
You are listening to the RNIB's Insight Radio. We're broadcasting live from the Scottish Parliament, and I'm chatting with the head of the Equal Opportunities Committee, Claudia Beamish. We will have some more music. I'm sitting and I'm chatting with the convener of the Equal Opportunities Committee, Claudia Beamish. Now, Claudia, you were brought up in a conservative household. When did you realise that you were turning a little bit Labour?
A little bit or quite a lot. In fact, I didn't really turn Labour kind of just like that. But as a teenager, I was very aware of, I would say, really equality issues. And I went with my dad, who was a Tory MP and then a Life peer, to the Lebanon, because he went on a political mission there. And I was staying in a very affluent part of the city, and right really close up to that were refugee camps, and I began thinking about things quite hard then. But I have to say that all through my university days, I didn't want to have anything to do with politics at all. And then I came to politics really through the peace movement and the environment movement, and I'm still a very strong environmentalist, and I believe that's the way forward. And it became more holistic as there were more and more issues that I got involved with, and then thought, in '95 I joined the Labour Party and was made to feel welcome, and been fighting really, I suppose, for more equality in the best way that I can ever since. And I've also been honoured to be chair of the Scottish Labour Party, which was quite a challenge. And then I have to say I was surprised to be asked to be convener of equal opportunities as a new MSP, but I've done a lot of work with women's issues, and now that's broadening out into cross-cutting issues, which I hope as a committee, and we work very well as a cross-party committee, and I hope that we'll do our best for people.
Yeah, and you have to campaign, you have to talk regularly in the chamber as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Now tomorrow is the what is it? The finance.
The finance committee is
report,
their report becomes public in relation to the budget, the Scottish Government's budget. And in fact, one of the first things we did as an Equal Opportunities Committee was we wrote to all the different departments of government and asked them, not as an add-on at the end, but to consider equalities right the way through their budgetary process, and to report to us. And one of the cross-cutting issues that came across through a number of departments, not just health, but the economy as well, and others, was disability. And so when the report is published tomorrow, your listeners will be able to look to see whether it actually is something that they feel that we've taken forward in a way that's appropriate for them, and to comment and feed back to us, because one of the other things is that we're doing through the year now, we're picking up on these issues and revisiting for instance, the disability issues that we've highlighted, and seeing whether once the budgets are out, how they're being used, how they're being monitored, and we're determined that that is an ongoing process right the way through the budgetary process of the year. One other thing is that we had an emphasis on race, religion and belief this year, and each of the years of the budget during this Parliament we're going to be looking, not exclusively, but we are going to be focusing on a particular area. So one of the years we'll be looking particularly at disability, though not exclusively again, and I think that will help us to really drive forward the agenda for your listeners.
Well, there's a lot of work ahead and a lot of advances to be made. For the meantime, though, we thank you very much for coming to chat with us here, Claudia Beamish, convener of the Equal Opportunities Committee. Thank you for joining us here on Insight Radio.
Right, thank you very much.